audience.
My persuasive speech is about why the United States needs to close its borders to all refugees. 65%, that's the amount that crime has increased in Germany since allowing Muslim migrants to flood their country. Other countries in Europe that have allowed migrants to invade their country have also seen a spike in violence and crime. Sweden, being among these countries, has been torn apart by an open door policy for all migrants, according to the Daily Mail website. At what point is enough enough? The truth is that most migrants might actually be in need and want to live in this country for a chance at a better life. But far too many of them are criminals that rape and kill or belong to a terrorist group that would love to see our country and our people bow to Allah. According to Ben Carson, it's not about being politically correct anymore. It's about the safety of our country and the state that it's in. I followed both sides of the argument extensively, and I've done my research on this sensitive topic, and I hope to persuade each of you to go against allowing refugees into our country because the safety of American lives hangs in the balance. Even though it may seem a bit harsh to shut our doors to so many people who really may be in need, but it's not worth risking the lives of millions, because that's exactly what it'll be doing if we allow refugees to enter our country. It will be putting the lives of innocent men, women, and children in danger. The Islamic extremist doesn't care who they hurt or kill when they set bombs off in soccer arenas or train stations. Their goal is to kill the people that don't agree with them and don't worship those that they worship. So the ones that enter the United States would be no different. At this point, the only way to ensure that the Islamic extremism don't get their goal to see American people in shambles or beheaded is to make sure they don't enter our country. And the only way to do that is to shut off all borders completely to all refugees until we can determine those from the ones in need to those who are actually Muslim terrorists. Either that or till we can stop ISIS. Keeping the extremists out of our country will be our only defense from attacks like the ones in France or Brussels. We now know that several teams of ISIS terrorists attacked 6 different locations in Paris, killing at least 132 people and wounding hundreds more. We have also learned that one of the terrorists responsible for these grotesque attacks may have been a Syrian posing as a migrant who was able to gain safe entry to France, Belgium, and other Central European countries. That's a quote straight from Time magazine from a Ben Carson article, and it describes exactly what Americans need to start fearing, because Syrian refugees that are allowed access into this country will pose as serious threats as long as they're at large. The article in Time magazine goes on to say that given the tragedy in Paris last Friday, the U.S. simply cannot, should not, and must not accept any Syrian refugees. We as a country can't continue to support an administration that allows funding for programs that relocate Syrian refugees into the United States. I believe it's time to stop worrying about being politically correct and start putting the needs of our country first. Otherwise, it's going to be a terrible place for the generations to come. If we ignore the warning signs from places like Sweden and Germany, we are bound to repeat their mistakes. Terrorist attacks are not the only things we need to fear from Syrian migrants. Everyday crime has been on the rise in Sweden in the last year since allowing all migrants to live there. According to voanews.com, migrants used to be able to walk down the streets of Östersund, Sweden, and be welcomed by the citizens with smiling faces. But now attitudes and times have changed. Over the last year, 15 women and girls have been raped in the streets of Östersund by refugees. Now most citizens of Östersund would rather look down and avoid all contact with refugees at all time. These were people that were holding Welcome Refugees banners a year ago, and now if it were up to them, they would send them all back to where they came from. If the countries and citizens that have already allowed these refugees to enter their country wish they could go back and change their decision, why do Americans think that we would be any different? I guarantee you, years from now after doing this, we would greatly be regretting our decision and wishing we could get rid of them, but by then it'll be too late. I know I can't convince everyone to vote for a different president, and that's not my goal. My only goal is that at the least I can persuade each of you to disagree with allowing these refugees to enter our country. Because my only concern is the safety of the American people. And I find it hard to believe that each of you would willingly let a terrorist, murderer, or rapist into your homes, so why let them into our country?